We'll go ahead and get started. So here we are with an NHC 2 p.m. update. I thought maybe they might do a special 5 p.m. update based on the proximity of this system near the southeast region. And they may do something here in a little while, but as of yet, they have not updated the NHC 2 p.m. Eastern Time forecast, which basically shows an area of interest, which is 96L, heading towards the southeast United States. Um, they do think maybe it could become a tropical depression before landfall. We've seen storms kind of blow up over the Gulf Stream and over our warmer shelf waters over time. We're now sitting at about 81, 82 degrees on our coastal shelf. The Gulf Stream temperatures are 83 to 84 and even 85 degrees right down the center. So there's the sea surface temperatures are plenty warm enough to support a storm. It's just a matter of how much time it's going to have. If we look at the regional imagery, we can see the wave. It's more or less what I saw earlier was an inverted trough, but now I believe that they've actually found a center of low pressure, and so that will start to build off of it overnight tonight. It's becoming and it's going into a warmer environment. There is a little bit of upper shear. If you look at the cloud tops, you can see the clouds going from east to west, stretching out, and the upper level winds. I'll show you that in a little bit on the sounding, the weather balloon sounding, as to why that's occurring. But that upper shear is sort of blowing some of those higher cloud tops off. There was an impressive blowup of convection earlier, and that since has fizzled out a little bit of dry air training into it. So it may go through a few iterations of ups and downs with convection over the next day or two. If you look a little bit closer, we see an open tropical wave here. And if you look really close, you can see the center of circulation is right back here after where the larger blob is. You can see these clouds getting sheared off upper levels up and around the 25 to 35,000 foot levels from east southeast to west northwest. But once again, you can barely see it under here, but the center of circulation being right here on the aft side of that blob. And really what it is closed circulation is in place. There was a flare up of convection earlier. If we look at let's take a look at the text product from the National Hurricane Center. So if we go to 50% chance for development in the next 48 hours and 50% chance next 5 days, now 5 days is going to come and go. This system's going to make landfall probably likely tomorrow evening, tomorrow night. And so really going on the 48-hour forecast here for this particular system. But it does say that the system will move across warmer waters of the Gulf Stream and tropical depression could form before the system makes landfall. And it looks like it's really hard to tell where it's going to make landfall, but the current track and the current thinking is going to be somewhere between, I would say, Beaufort, South Carolina, and Tybee Island, Georgia. So right along the Savannah River Delta in this area. Now, if high pressure does steer a little further north, it could track somewhere between Charleston and Beaufort, maybe over the Edisto or the somewhere around the Edisto River area, maybe Port Royal, Sound, Hilton Head at the furthest south there. But we'll get some additional guidance here shortly. Let's take a look at what the Weather Service is saying here as of their 3:45 p.m. update today. And they're basically saying they're going with NHC. Regardless of tropical designation, the system looks to bring healthy rain chances, gusty winds. And you know what? I've been filming this whole time without moving myself out of the way, so I do apologize. Let me go back. I'll go back over those maps in just a minute. I do apologize there, but we'll get these maps in. Healthy rain chances and gusty winds. System looks to bring heavy pockets of rainfall over certain areas, maybe some minor flooding. Gusty winds. It's hard to say exactly where the winds are going to be. It's really, when you get into these systems, it gets a little bit tricky because where it makes landfall matters. So if it makes landfall here, then we have counterclockwise rotation winds going around the system. And so at any point where that surface low pressure is, the winds can be different. So if you're to the north of it, it makes landfall over the Savannah River, and you're to the north of it, you're probably going to be looking at a southeast or east-southeast flow into the coastline, right? And then if you're below where it is, you're going to be seeing offshore flow. So it'd be probably less chance for any kind of flooding, more chance for flooding in these areas with a tidal influence, and plus a storm, maybe a little bit of a storm swell coming off of that, and also those driving winds into a high tide could make for some minor saltwater flooding in these areas. Right now, we're not looking too bad. We're coming off of a full moon. We're not in a full moon phase. We're on a waning phase, so it looks pretty good overall for the moon, and not anything significant looking like it's going to happen. So I think, the thing is not to worry too much, but just sort of knocks the rust off the wheels of saying, hey, let's start to get ready for this, this kind of activity as we get into July and August. We start to get into the dog days of summer. We see the Cape Verde season kicking off, and these east to west waves are going to be coming towards the southeast region from time to time, and we have to keep our eye on them. Let's take a look at the GFS modeling. And one of the reasons why this system has been edging towards us is simply because of this ridge to the north. Now we have high pressure firmly entrenched to the north. We get a clockwise rotation around that. And so when you get further away from the center, you end up with an easterly flow, and that's pushing this area, this invest, right along the southern portion of the ridge or the high area of high pressure. So what it does is it really just follows that ridge right into the coastline. That's the main steering mechanism. There aren't any really upper level jets or low upper trough steering. It really is just a driving sort of detail. Now it may ride up and around the ridge a little bit and carry a little further north in the Savannah River area, but time is not on its side either, which is a good thing, which means it won't be sticking around. It doesn't have much time to develop, if anything at all, into depression, or maybe even might get the storm named Danny briefly before making landfall. Here's the IR loop where you can see some of that convection earlier really just kind of got lopped off. We're seeing a new area of convection fire up near the center of circulation now. And you can really tell these higher cloud tops are getting stretched out from east southeast to west northwest at that upper shear that's occurring. Looking at the weather balloon earlier for the Charleston area, we see the low level winds, which are down here, very relaxed. We have easterly winds generally at the surface as well. I have a little bit of a pinch gradient at the surface today, right around 10 to 14 knots. As you go higher up in the atmosphere, we're still seeing relaxed winds all the way up even to the mid levels. We got 18,000 feet at 500 millibars, still pretty relaxed, all the way up until you get about 29 to 30,000 feet. Then you start to see that upper shear about 35 to 40 knots. These four long ticks mean 10 knots each. The little short one means 5. So if you know how to read these, when you get really high up, this is too high up to really make any difference because the equilibrium level is set right here, but you're looking at 50 knots to these areas. But just a little brief thing on vertical sounding that occurred today. If you look at the NAM 12 for guidance on the system, this is just one of the model runs. There are ensembles out there I could look through, but I think we're just kind of grazing over maybe some of the medium to low resolution models as we get over time tonight. And this one really sort of sets the precedence of this thing really heading towards the Savannah River area. And that's really what the general thinking is. You can see it really weak. I mean, it really, this storm may hold up as a depression. It may flare up over the Gulf Stream and over the shelf waters and actually become a tropical storm. But the modeling for right now, at least from this one particular NAM 12 deterministic model, is showing a weaker storm. So I think at the very least, we could be looking at some, maybe just below tropical storm force winds, but in that worst, tropical storm force winds. Now we look at the ASCAT, the scatterometer readings earlier I saw where we were trying to get a closed low in this area. And this is really what a satellite sort of paints ribbons across the planet. And it does it in sort of a fashion where if it catches that area where it's at, it gives us a little bit of a profile. So it uses microwave energy to show what's going on at the surface in the absence of actual data at the surface, like a buoy or a ship with a weather sounding on it. But this showed earlier winds about 30 to 35 knots, which is getting up there in the winds, especially along the northern quadrant. But if we get closed low and those winds wrap around the core, that's when we start to get into depression mode. And then also, if we get fully closed and it's starting to get to 30, 35 knots solid, then we may get a storm name out of it. But it really has to have good tropical properties for it. Looking at the area now for the coastline, looks like we're in the moderate scale easterly winds. Actually have a little bit of a gradient out there pushing up towards 16 knots, and then now we're starting to fall back down. This is Isle of Palms Pier, so we're at about 14 knots, 14 to 16, gusting to 18, 19 from Isle of Palms to Folly Beach. These are our weather flow sensors. If we come down, down to Fripp nearshore buoy, we're sitting at about 15 knots, gust 21, so a little bit stronger there just offshore. Down to Tybee Island, just south of the Savannah River, 12 knots east. So a nice easterly flow today around that ridge to the north that I spoke of earlier with the high pressure. Again, here's the ridge that I was speaking of that's driving the system towards the coastline. So it's not like these, when we get troughs and fronts that kind of park offshore and then we get high pressures building over them, eventually something usually will happen, especially in the warmer waters, where a little closed area of low pressure will spin up and then this high will drive it right into the coastline right around it. So this is kind of the general setup of how we see things going on. And in the summertime, we start to see more of a Bermuda high pressure where it's not that high north in latitude. It's actually here off the coast. And we see this sort of a setup where it can actually steer it up into the southeast region. So, the high is a little bit further north. So that means the storm's going to stay a little further south than us this go around. Let's see. Charleston, National Weather Service, Charleston for the tide predictions. They don't see anything right now. I'll go ahead and refresh real quick to see if they've changed anything per GFS. Doesn't look like we're in any any significant threat. I could go down to Fort Pulaski, Georgia. I don't know where that one is. I think that station's been down offline for a little bit, but at least the Charleston area looks okay as far as tidal flooding goes. But other than that, again, once again, with an NHC, 50% chance for development. Um, Over the next 48 hours. We're not really gonna look at the 5 day spread on this one simply because it's not gonna have that much time. This thing's gonna be like making landfall tomorrow evening, tomorrow night. If we see any effects up in the Charleston area be associated with an east or east southeast, maybe even a southeast flow with some showers wrapping around, may have some squalls at times, get some gusty winds up around the 30, 40 mile an hour mark. If it does strengthen, we could see winds a little bit stronger than that, but it won't be consistent. It'll be in sort of waves of tropical energy that comes in off the ocean, especially if it stays to our south. We'll be on the northern quadrant of the system. Again, here's the southeastern or the regional view of the system. And then if we get a little further in using the RAM-B slider, we can see that the closed low is right here after this blob. We're seeing the upper shear coming from east southeast to west northwest. Those higher level winds are about 30,000 feet. The mid level winds are pretty relaxed, which we saw a huge blow up in convection earlier. So once again, um, we're not looking at too much a huge flare up and intensification of the storm. We're not looking at rapid intensification, but what we are is looking for this thermohaline current with the Gulf Stream that resides right off our coast down to Florida. Actually cuts in towards Florida a little bit more than that. It's about 60 miles off our coast and gets closer to Florida. But this is rich water. This is actually fresher water than its surroundings. So the evaporative processes are a little faster out there. And what we see sometimes is when systems enter this area, you'll get a huge flare up of convection that can actually intensify there by some amount of degree. But there again, this thing's on the move about 15 to 17 miles an hour, so it won't be sticking over that area for very long. And then we have our warm shelf waters that are right around 81, 82 degrees on the inside of the Gulf Stream towards the coastline. So we'll be watching very closely. I think everybody will be okay. Again, like I said earlier, it's just sort of knocking the rust off the bike, saying, hey, make sure you have a plan this year, get your hurricane evacuations in order, make sure you have your kits and everything updated. And this is just one of maybe more to come. I could never tell you when and where another one of these would happen or if a stronger storm would happen in our area. But with an above normal season forecast from NOAA this year, it looks like we could have an active season. We may see a few more glancing blows like this throughout this year, or we may have something more to deal with. Maybe not at all. Last year we saw a little activity. Most of the activity was in the Gulf of Mexico. So it really just depends on what the tropical features are coming off the coast of Africa. There is another one that is off the coast that came out really low in latitude, and this one does not have. Let me see if I can get back to that map. 5 day outlook. Now this one's at a low 20% chance next 48 hours and 30% chance next 5 days as it goes towards the windwards and over the leewards. Now, if it holds up in this area over the Leeward Islands over towards Puerto Rico and goes just north of those islands and keeps coming around that high pressure area, these are the ones that we got to watch. These short ones at the coastline, of course, we got to watch them too, but they're not going to be as well defined and developing over time as these are coming across the main development region or the intertropical convergence zone for that matter, coming up towards the southeast region. But this is really far out, nothing to worry about. In fact, this one right here with Invest 96L, I don't think we have a whole lot to worry about here in Charleston, maybe down near Savannah. Probably a little bit worse with some heavier rains down, I would say, between Beaufort, Tybee Island, maybe even down to Sapelo Sound. But some squall-like winds and some gusty winds at times, and nothing different than what we see with our typical thunderstorms, except these tropical systems can sometimes spawn tornadoes. So we'll have to watch out for some tornadic activity that occurs with it. All right, I'm going to go ahead to some questions here. Thanks for everybody for hopping on. I know I did block some of the screen for a little bit, so I went back my first time in almost a year going live. So I have to knock the dust off the open broadcast software to talk about this. Let's see, Suzanne Brown. Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate it. Yep. Also watch NOAA. They're the official. That's why I like to show official information here. When I get into the modeling, like Levi Cowan's Tropical Tidbits, great guy. He's got really good products, but you have to kind of take these. I'm using the name 12 simply for guidance only. This is not the actual forecast, but it gives you a general idea of where this might land along the Georgia-South Carolina border or somewhere nearby. But when you get into satellite imagery, this is official information. We get into RAM-B where we're looking at the system. This is all official, but the NHC is really the go-to. And if there's something with a track tied to it, always pay attention. Kelly Jones, hey, how are you from Columbia? Let's see. Alice Anderson. Yep, yep. I did end up moving my head out of the way. I do apologize. Let's see here. Kathleen Thomas, when will the surf be best? When you go live, I think we are grabbing our own boards and boarding our windows. No, we're not boarding our windows for this one whatsoever. Grabbing the board, sure. It may be a little rough out there tomorrow. It may throw a little swell in. We may get a little hop. I'm looking at Surfline. Let me see if Surfline. That's a good point. I do have an account with them. So let me see if I can pull up North Washout, and I'll put that up on the screen real quick. I like to have fun with some of these. I look at these every. I look at this product every morning whenever I'm doing the Chucktown wind report forecast, and also even the wind forecast. I like to kind of see what's going on at Folly Beach, especially washout area, if I can get it to load. Looks like for Monday, looking at 3 feet, that's about waist to stomach. We may get a little bump to stomach and maybe some chest sets by late Monday afternoon. But again, with the winds kind of increasing through the afternoon, if we end up getting a pinch gradient between that high pressure to the north and we end up getting 18 to 21 knots of east southeast wind, it's going to be pretty rough out there. So if you're going to go, I would say, if it's going to throw any bump, it may not get here till tomorrow afternoon, unfortunately. But you could always try tomorrow morning. There's already a wind swell in place out there, and it looks like Folly Beach, the cam is really slow to load. So, anyways, I think that covers it. If we get back to it, I'll if I can get it to load, I'll get back to you on that one. Okay, Ellen Chapman. Yeah, hey Ellen, how are you doing? Good to see you again. And Christopher Monteleone, appreciate it. And I think that's it for all the questions. We have about 26 watchers on for right now. Again, just kind of going over the parameters for this system. And with a 50% chance, it doesn't have a whole lot of time. It's got about 24 hours before it makes landfall, 24 to maybe 28 hours, and then that's going to be it. It's going to make landfall and it'll dissipate. But it will bring some rain into these areas of the Georgia, South Carolina states, all the way up into the Midlands, and definitely saturate the lowlands. We've had quite a bit of rain in the lowlands for low country for quite some time, up until just recently. So these tropical showers aren't too bad as long as they don't spawn tornadic activity or do any damages. They're not too bad, but they actually kind of cool down the temperatures and make things a little bit pleasant, except it is a little bit wet. But other than that, folks, I think I'm going to sign off. And if anything significant happens over tonight, where we get a blow up of convection and NHC actually gives it a TD name, I might come back on tonight to discuss. If not, it'd be tomorrow morning. But I think everybody's gonna be okay on this one. Just something to watch and monitor as we roll through the hurricane season. So once again, hurricane season started this month, June the 1st, and it will end November the 30th to wrap up the season officially. Our heaviest season along the southeast region, where we see the most activity, is usually between late July and late October, and September being really the kind of the big month. So until next time, everybody, take care. And if you have any further questions, please post them in the chat box, and I'll get back to them at some point via text, not on camera, because I've got to run. I'll see you all later. Thank you.